forgot my football. Damn it. Welcome into MJT Internet. Hope you guys are having a tremendous Friday. We appreciate you stopping by. However you got here, doesn't really matter, but we love the fact that you're hanging out with us for a couple minutes, giving us a try. If you love talking about the NFL, please fire away in the chat. Yes, all three of us are obsessed with the NFL. I'm the host, Tony Tucker. I'm joined by my good buddies, NFL Mike at the NFL Mike. Super famous on all of the social platforms, and rising young hotshot there. I don't know about how he rising or hot or young or whatever he is, but the Joe Morley. How we doing, Joe?
Amazing. Every time I could see you two and remind me of Charger football, it's always great.
Wait till I get back to the background, Joe. Wait till I get back.
That's what I was about to say, Joe. You seem really excited today, man. It's Friday. Come on, get your spirits up on Friday, Joe.
I'm very excited. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Max Crosby got a new deal yesterday. Got $6 million more this season.
Didn't he just get a deal? Like, didn't Max Crosby?
Well, he signed that new deal in 2022. So what? He's a year into it, or 2 years into it. But the Raiders have a lot of money just lying around, so. He was going to enter the season as the 9th highest defensive end being paid this year, so might as well throw him a little bit of money.
Mike, take this one for me.
I don't got nothing to say, Tony. I just see what's happening. You see what's happening. We're just not going to say anything. Let's just.
I don't know.
Just let it happen. Let's just let it happen.
Excess money laying around. Maybe a quarterback would have been an option. I don't know.
Where the fuck do you think they got that money from?
I'll say this is looking very familiar. Looking very familiar to a scenario I've seen recently in the division where the GM's just giving money away.
Yeah, I remember the deal because he signed for like 98.98 or whatever it was. It was like 98 million, $980,000, whatever that number is. I sound like a fucking idiot right now. I don't even know how numbers work. But I remember it having some sort of significance to his jersey number, which was the cool portion of the contract. What's not cool is that Max Crosby is one of the best players in football and gets to chase down Justin Herbert twice a year. I don't love that at all.
Herbie can get away. He's elusive.
Yeah. Last year was a little brutal. Okay. So before we get into the show, we're talking about last week there was some conversation about new jerseys that were out. We're going to get into that. Tom Brady being denied ownership to the Raiders. And most importantly, we're going to be talking QB contracts, because every time you go onto the internet, there is like, this guy should be paid this, and this guy should get this money, and this guy's not worth it, and we need another prove it year, and all this stuff. I just want to get opinions from my friends, from people all on this channel who will most likely, although we aspire to, but will most likely never make this kind of money that these guys are talking about. We'll just give them $53 million a year. Okay, settle down. Let's slow that train. But before we get into that, I need to be old for a second, because that's who I am and what I do. This idea of removing the chains from the NFL sidelines, I don't love the idea of not seeing where the ball is. I understand fully the technology may make it for a more accurate reading, but there's something about me just liking to see football the way that it was before, right? Like, love to see the actual guys with chains, even in those, those times where like they're fumbling around and they're not quite sure if they grab the chain at the right spot. And it's like, it's always a little, you're like, maybe I'm getting screwed by this guy. You start Googling, where's this official actually from? Is he connected? Is he from Indianapolis? Is this why the chain? Do you feel this way, or are you like, just get rid of the chain gang? We just want the best technology. Where are you at? I'm going to start with Mike, because he's younger. Maybe his opinion is different than mine. Where are you at on this one, Mike?
I feel like they can get rid of the chain gang, but they still have to put some kind of marker on the field for the players and the coaches to see where the first down is, where the line of scrimmage is. All of that is still going to need to be marked in some way, shape, or form. So, like, are they really removing the chain gang, or are they just just using the microchip to determine first downs, where we're not going to have to use an index card to determine first downs anymore. I do like the tradition of like everyone huddling around like, oh, is it a first down? Is it not? What's going on? But we don't need it. It's a waste of time. I'd rather give the time for pass interference to be reviewed than to be able to measure these first downs, for sure.
Whatever.
Why wouldn't you want technology to be correct, Tony? Why wouldn't you root for something to be 100%? If it crosses the goal line, if it crosses this, you want that, and that ball can tell you exactly where it was, then you go with it. I don't understand why you would be against it. Like, you're getting rid of these chain marks that, okay, you don't even need anymore. Like, you're still going to have the guy standing there with a first down. You're just not going to have that long-ass chain anymore. That's it. You're just getting rid of the chain.
I like it. I just feel like it's been there forever. I don't want any more changes. I mean, the NFL is already going to start putting ads on jerseys. They're going to pretty soon. We're going to be looking up, and the goalposts are going to have Red Bull up the side of it or something. Like, everything is. It's not. They're just changing too much, and I'm showing my age. Like, I just don't like all of the massive amounts of change, which is going to be kind of weird when we get to the jersey conversation. Although fitting, but. It's exciting. The stuff Mike talked about is exciting, Joe. Watching the defense be there at the line of scrimmage at that moment, and then they realize they just got a fourth down stop, the way they celebrate, there's nothing better than that to me.
They're still going to celebrate the same way.
But it's not got the same buildup of just a bunch of weird old people like stretching out like chain link Home Depot, and then all of a sudden they see it and you just see the reaction. It's like, great, offense, get on the field. Defense is coming off super hyped. Like, I love those moments.
I do see what old people are kind of saying, Tony, because like you just open the door a little bit more. Like the door's already been cracked a little. And it's pushed open a little bit more to just technology full on calling the entire game. But the refs are so bad that I'm getting to a point where technology calling the entire game might not be such a terrible thing to think about, even though it's going to completely change the way everything looks and the way everything operates. If, an AI robot is calling the calls directly down the middle with no bias, and he doesn't need eyes to see if it's right because he has 100 camera angles. He isn't even a he or a she. He's just a robot. So he doesn't even have a gender. So there is nothing that could be said about rigged games or anything ever again. I don't know. That's the one thing I could see people getting upset about is like, this is something really small, minute, very small addition, but like using a microchip to place the ball, like football fans from before where this sport grew on and has a foundation on would never even fathom that small little thing happening. You're cracking the door a little bit more to just full on technology invading the game. Like I see that baseball, they have like the strike animation, like when a pitcher pitches the ball and you can see if it was a strike or not, and you can see if the ump got it wrong. Like I feel like they're like kind of hinting like we could just use a computer to call strikes and balls here if we needed to.
Mike, this is the same old man, Tony Tucker, right here, that was just texting us the other day that he wanted hologram football to be played. So they don't even have to travel.
Time out.
Right?
Time
out. He was like,
that is out of context. What I am talking about is asking these athletes to fly to Australia to play a game. I'm saying if they want to have football in an Australian stadium, make it hologram technology there. So you still fly around the States and you do all that normal stuff, but we're asking people to fly to Brazil to market the game. What I'm saying is let's just put the hologram technology in these other places, not actually in the States. They still need to fly around to the States and make that stuff happen. Don't take me out of context.
Just put the VR stuff. Just put the VR on them and let them play like that. They don't even have to get on the field. They'll just put VR and they'll just like this.
Well, then at that point, more people might be able to play.
That's the only way Patrick Mahomes is beating Tom Brady's records. I'll tell you that right now. Start playing VR football because he ain't gonna be playing into his.
Don't put that kind of jinx out there. We don't want to be testing to see like, oh, whoa, it's already bad enough that all year it's gonna be like, can the Chiefs be the first team to three-peat? It's nauseating. Like, I really will celebrate them getting knocked out before the Super Bowl. Like maybe I haven't celebrated since probably the Patriots lost in the AFC Championship game to the Broncos that one year. Like it was done. Like I just don't need another Chiefs Super Bowl this year.
They're already putting microchips in everything else, Tony. They already got them in shoulder pads and on the players. Like that's how you get those next gen stats. Like, do you watch on Thursday Night Football? I don't know if you guys still do it, but on Thursday Night Football on Amazon, they give you 2 options to watch football. And one of them is the next gen, where it's actually showing you how fast they're running, the route they're running, and everything else. So, I mean, we're already almost to where you don't want to be, Tony.
Yeah, well, I mean, we definitely have moved in that direction quite a bit, but it's sort of like what they did in tennis, right? Like you had the marker, and all of a sudden they started saying like, we're just the players were like, all right, we'll rely on technology because it seems better. But guess what? They still disagreed with technology. They still disagree with the tracers inside the tennis balls, going like that serve did not hit the line. You got a glitch in your system. So like there's still going to be arguments. Everybody thinks that computers solve everything. Look what the internet did. I think the internet has divided us just as much as pre-internet. Like it's not like things got a ton better with the invention of the technology.
As an online entrepreneur, that's a whole other topic that we can go down, Tony. But I do agree. Some new conspiracies could be started. I was sitting next to a dumbass Raiders fan at the 63-point game that we all forgot about by now because it was so long ago, that was telling me that he thinks that there's magnets in the footballs and the NFL can just turn them on and it just repels the football away from the goalpost. It's like when they need a team to miss a field goal, they just turn them bitches on and it just sends the ball as far away from the goalpost as possible, which would explain why Cameron Dicker missed that kick in that 27-point lead blown. Also, why am I bringing up all the bad things that happened to the Chargers over the last couple of years? But they're saying that they could use the technology to rig the games even more. We start seeing conspiracies like that, start to arise from the robots rigging the games. Can the AI robot also put a bet in? Does that make it so the robot can't put the bet in just like a human, or?
You can bet on it. You can bet on it as long as it's not your same team.
Okay.
And you don't do it in the buildings.
Wait,
do you remember this game, Cyber Bowl?
I do not remember this ball. Happy Friday. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you're at, to Harrison and LA Spike. Because LA Spike also said something up in one of the other comments. I was a little afraid to put it on the screen because I wasn't sure with the new overlay setup. Mike, tremendous job on this. Was if it was going to bump up our video and like mess up the alignment. So I was like, I'll let one of these guys put the first comment on the screen, but it looks great. He's talking about like the AirPods being at everything for whatever. And Joe brought up a good point. They've already been using this technology. Like the NFL is going to try this in preseason with the first down marker, but the chips have already been in everything for years. Like they already kind of know that it's going to work. They just want to see the fans' reaction to it. Like
Mike, your favorite league uses it already, right? The UFL.
The NFL? The UFL? I have not watched. Guilty as charged.
This is where the NFL uses the UFL as like their little like experimental. That's where they get a lot of this stuff from.
Well, I watched more UFL this year because the Michigan Panthers, dark horse, looking to bet a little money on a UFL team, Michigan Panthers, led by the other Nakua brothers. Good score.
Do it with rebet.
UFL game.
Do it with rebet, Tony.
There you go, Mike. Putting in a little promo. Let's get to our first topic, and I'm sure that Harrison or LA Spike will have thoughts on this. But like the quarterback contracts are such a highly discussed topic, right? We all love to be in other people's pockets at this time of year. Let's start with Tua, right? The contract, like last week on the show, Joe said, hey, Tua hasn't even reported yet for camp, or any of the voluntary stuff. He actually did show up this week. There's been conversations back and forth on it. Like, where do you guys stand on Tua, the contract situation? We'll start with Mike.
I mean, I think it's just inevitable all these guys are going to get paid at this point, and there's some more stuff I can go over on the bigger picture after we talk about each individual player. But it's interesting to see how it's unfolding with the Dolphins and if they're going to be able to talk Tua down at all. I don't know if you guys remember, like the Dolphins were heavy players in the Deshaun Watson market. They were heavy players in the Tom Brady market, to where they got a tampering fine. Like since they've gotten Tua, they've basically been trying to replace Tua. And I remember when he was struggling early on in his career, they were going to the backup, Ryan Fitzpatrick, in the games. So it's interesting now the roles have kind of flipped, and they need Tua. Their options have dwindled down to nothing for this season, and who knows for the future. But they need Tua right now while they have Tyreek Hill healthy somewhat and on this team. And the roles are completely reversed. And they're going to have to give him this massive deal after they've been trying to kind of replace him over the last couple of years. It's one of the more interesting situations also of these quarterbacks, because I think maybe in the Dak situation, we're going to talk about Dak too, but with Jordan Love and with Trevor Lawrence, you're paying that quarterback to kind of lift the team, take the offense to the next level. With Tua, you're kind of just paying him just to do the simple things and let the talent around him lift the team. And I wonder how that's going to play into the negotiations here. But Tua's going to get $45+ million, $50 million, just like the rest of these guys are.
Joe?
Yeah, the problem in the NFL is, and we've talked about this multiple times, is it doesn't matter if you're the best player at your position. If you're up for the contract, you're getting the biggest, highest paid at that position. So Tua, so Miami is arguing with that, right now with themselves. Like, Tua has been hurt. He's maybe has been the guy that we like, and then sometimes he's not been the guy that we like. Are we willing to give him the $50 to $55 million that it takes to be a franchise quarterback now? Or are we going to go, hey, screw it, let's have him walk? I think another thing that's holding Miami up right now is money issue. Is they only have $1 million until June 1st. June 1st, Xavier Howard will come off the salary cap, and that opens up another $25 million this season, which then we should start seeing the Tua conversation get a little bit more exciting. I've seen rough numbers on Tua around $200 million is what they're saying. So it's going to be a little bit less than some of these bigger guys. But Miami is the salary cap, I think, is what's hurting them a little bit, because even next year, whatever they give Tua, even next year, they're already $11 million over the cap. You know what I mean? Even though we talk about the salary cap being just a myth and you could do whatever you need to, there's a reason why Miami had to let Christian Wilkins walk this year. They're signing all these guys, and it's not working out for them, or they just putting their money elsewhere. And Tua, I mean, the quarterback position, you should have already been winning with Tua. That's why you're able to spend all this money when they're on that rookie deal. But once these quarterbacks get to where they're at, that's where your franchise has to start making or breaking. But I think the Tua situation will get done, because you see it on the sideline with Mike McDaniels and Tua. But are those guys connected at the hip too, right? McDaniels and Tua. What if this is a make or break year and the Dolphins don't make the playoffs? Are the Dolphins looking to ship both of them out? Maybe they don't want to fully commit to them.
I don't think either of those guys are on the hot seat. And I'm going to say this. I think that it's the most interesting structures that we have, that were both guys, Love and Tua, were drafted in the same draft. And they're eventually they're in the same exact spot, but one organization has had essentially 3 starters for 30 years. And the other organization, I was going to get this list, but I'm just going to rattle off the top of my head. Feel free to chip in if you remember some names. Sage Rosenfeld, Jay Fiedler, Chad Pennington, Dante Culpepper, Moore. What was it? Matt Moore played some games for them. Chad Henne. It's it has been nonstop. John Beck. We could go on if we could even just sit here and think about it. Ryan Tannehill. They have been waiting for somebody that elevates, even if it isn't all the time or in all the circumstances or in all weather conditions or whatever you want to put it in. They've been waiting for somebody to elevate this way. So that's why Tua is going to get paid. My stance remains the same, is that I believe Miami and his team will get together. They will make Tua look like the good guy here. They're going to make it look like, hey, Tua came in and did like a team-friendly thing because he wants to make sure guys stick around. And Tua comes in around $46 million or so. But as we transition this conversation to Jordan Love, I don't think Jordan Love and his camp are going the same route in the same direction. I think he's going, hey, I'm the next man at the table, and we just saw what Jared Goff got. I want to be in that ballpark. And I think the Packers are going to end up paying that kind of money.
Probably. I'm with you. I think that the Packers are going to pay Jordan Love. And similarly to like what Joe's saying, it seems like the crossbars just moved for getting this payday. It's moved way back. And with every position, the next guy up does get signed. But it seems with the quarterbacks, especially in recent years, with the cap number going up, they're almost like eating up the entire increase. And that's the part that's been bothering me about the quarterbacks market is the fact that they have just basically just swallowed that extra cap that the NFL keeps making for these teams through all these greedy stuff that we were talking about last week and talking about earlier on the show, like going international and putting, a Red Bull thing on the kicking net when it comes up for field goals. So I would like to see the other positions see as drastic of increase that the quarterbacks are seeing. But I'm with you, Tony. I think that the Packers, they do this. They draft their guy. They let him sit behind the previous guy. They bring him in. He has a great year, and they sign him to that extension. And I don't know, because the potential on Jordan Love is probably the highest of these quarterbacks. The potential on Jordan Love is probably higher than Jared Goff, which you just mentioned. So Jordan Love's team's definitely mapping out that potential and where he can get to when they're negotiating this deal. And Josh Jacobs is going to help Jordan Love out a lot, huh, Joe?
What's his name? LaShawn Lloyd. But anyways, that's beside the point. So right now, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL going into the season, according to average pay per year, is Joe Burrow, right? He was taking, 2 picks before Tua?
3.
Right, in the same
he was 1, 2, or 4. He was 1, Tua was 5, Herbert was 6.
Right, and Herbert is making what, 52 million? So there's 55 million, 52 million. And then you just put Jared Goff right in the damn middle of both of them, which is throwing the whole damn thing up. I'm not saying nothing about Jared Goff, but are we putting Jared Goff in the top 5 quarterbacks? Like, should he be up there? Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, these contracts are ridiculous. And Jordan Love, like you said, will get paid. Tua will get paid. And it's just like, how ridiculous are these quarterback contracts going to get over time, Tony? Like, it's never going to stop. Like, when are we going to see the first $100 million quarterback? Like, he's making $100 million.
It's going to happen very rapidly. I mean, just looking at it in 2021, you go back to 2021, you look at the highest paid quarterbacks. The highest paid quarterback that year, 3 years ago, was Russell Wilson at 31 million or 32 million is what I have marked down here. We're only going back 3 years in between 32 million being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL to today we're seeing 50 plus million. And I think I looked at the starters today. If all 4 of these guys get signed, 20 of the 32 quarterbacks will make as much as the highest paid quarterback in 2020 and 2021. 20. So I think that is unbelievable. The jump. I mean, I don't think if you look at Peyton Manning's career, he probably averaged like $15 million per year.
Yeah, I know that. I think it was Favre was the highest paid quarterback. The second year he came back in Minnesota, they gave him like $20 million guaranteed just to like get him off the tractor, and came back, and that was just a disaster of a season. But I think it's and I'm blanking on his first name, but that Manning at Texas, the nephew, Arch Manning. I think Arch Manning is going to be in that first ballpark of like when he's coming up for his first contract, right? So he's got another 3 years of college football left. And then you think another 4 years before he's eligible. So in like 6 to 7 years, we're going to start seeing that, because there'll also be a new CBA at that point, which they're going to add an 18th game, because we've already talked about the greed of the NFL, and that's not going to stop. They'll go to like 2 preseason games or no preseason games, and they're going to add an 18th game, extra bye week, extend the season out. another couple of weeks and really just own the entire calendar year. Well, there will be essentially 3 weeks of football from like June to mid-July where they aren't controlling anything. And guess what? They'll figure out a way to do something in those times or whatever too. But I do think that we'll see that. But there's another little part of me where like, where do these teams eventually start going like, you know what? This is our offer for you, and we're not going to that level. We're not going to hamstring the organization. We're not going to, just because you're the next man up, put you above that player when we don't value you as the same way. Bucky Brooks had that great saying. It was the first time I'd ever heard it. Are you a truck or are you a trailer? You know, are you pulling or do you need to be pulled along? And to where I do think that Tua can be the truck side of this analogy, I don't necessarily think that's always the case, right? And we've seen that. And I think there's a lot of moments where it's like that with a lot of players. I think there are very few trucks where you could say like, hey, we're going to give you 25% of our cap, but that's because we know that you're going to get us to where we need to go. Because in like, if we really break it down, like how many quarterbacks out there that have ever existed really are making it to the Super Bowl every year, or every other year? It's a select few people, but yet my favorite quarterback, Justin Herbert, is being paid like a guy who should be taking this team. I keep hearing fans go, well, lower the expectations or whatever. It's like, no. There's no lower expectations anymore. If Herbert's healthy, this is a 10, 11 win football team. There is no rebuilding year when you're paying your quarterbacks this kind of money. That's the thing with Josh Allen right now. There is no sort of retooling bounce back year when Josh Allen's making $46 million or whatever. It's like train just has to keep going along and he has to figure out a way to get his team going. That's why you pay those people the money.
Well, Herbert, it was 10 wins on a non-healthy year. He had cracked ribs and half the team was out and still had 10 wins. So I'm with you, Tony. I feel like that's the worst of possible situations. You can get 10 wins there. We should be expecting 10 wins out of, flash forward 2 years and you're getting paid 5 times the amount. But this is a good analogy that you're using. And this is what I'm talking about and how the extra cap that teams are getting, it needs to be shifted other directions. Like the New York Giants are a prime example for this. They paid Daniel Jones last offseason like he was their truck. He was the one pulling the trailer, but really it was the guy who just left for their division rival, and that's what you freaking get. But Saquon couldn't get them to give him a contract, and he was actually the truck of the offense, and it's going to get uglier than those uniforms this year. And they're going to pay for it, and they might lose their coach because of it.
Why can't everybody be like Dak Prescott, huh? And say it's not all about the money. It's not about the money. Even though he's what? Dak Prescott is making what? 21% of the Dallas Cowboys salary cap. But it's not about the money, right, Dak? Never about the money.
So true Cowboys fan, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being in here. His comment is that Dak needs to be in the Cousins market. And I actually think that would be the smart move for Dak if he really is in the mindset of like, I want to win a Super Bowl, right? But those type of things would have needed to be figured out before the draft, before free agency. If he sat down with Jerry and said, yeah, I'm going to take an extension, Jerry, and I want to be at $44 million a year, but I want to know that CD is going to get locked up. If he wanted Michael Gallup back, like he's going to be here. I want to make sure that we're re-signing Stephon Gilmore or we're going out and we're making a play for L'Jarius Sneed, like whatever. He needs to be involved in those like thoughts, not necessarily the final decision maker, but I do think there's a part of it's like, hey, if I am doing this thing for the franchise, I would like to make sure that like, hey, I don't want Tyron Smith gone. Even though Smith is maybe a little bit older and can only play 12 games, guess what? When he plays those 12 games, he's really good. So like, let's not let him go to the Jets. It seems like Dak, in Joe's comment, he says, hey, it's not about the money. Well, it kind of feels like it's a little bit about the money. Also, I said this to these guys in a text message yesterday. I think there's a little bit of Dak going, if I'm going to be here and I'm going to deal with the scrutiny of being the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, I want $60 million a year. But if I'm going to go to a team and I'm going to go team up with the division rival Giants next year and Bill Belichick, and we're going to win the division, and it's going to be the craziest fun offseason conversations that we've had on this show in a long time. That would be nuts if that was the case. If Dak goes to the Giants and Belichick goes there, it would be crazy. I think he would sign a contract that's maybe a little bit more like quote unquote team friendly at $50 million a year to play there. But if you're going to play in Dallas and you're going to deal with all this, like all of it, then pay me to deal with all of the craziness that it takes to be the quarterback of the most popular team in the world as far as NFL football is concerned.
Well, that's the part where it's really confusing, Tony, is he's saying that he doesn't care about the money at all. So he's saying, like, I'm willing to take a discount, but there's no deal done yet? Like, wouldn't the Cowboys have pounced on a discount? I think that they would have.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
If it's really not about the money,
Prove it.
Because then the other thing to me is that, like, Jerry is basically saying, like, if you don't care about the money, then we really don't want you here.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, why wouldn't you be saying, like, hey, let's come to a reasonable contract then at $43 million. Let's get this thing done right now. And so we can start planning the offseason, accordingly, and we can load up the roster. Now, I'm not one of those people that thinks Dallas is just going to fall off the map. I still think Dallas is one of the 3 best teams in the NFC this year. Like, even with them losing the pieces they've lost this season, that's how much talent they have. Like, they're still going to be right there.
See, I don't want to hate on people for what you are worth, whatever you get paid. So if an NFL quarterback is getting offered $60 million a year, take that money and run. So get that money, even if you think you're worth it or not. Somebody's offering you that money, you take it. But when are NFL quarterbacks just have to look themselves in the mirror and be like, I want to win championships over getting paid. And like you said, Tony, if it's taking $10 million off a year, and in some states you can do it because the taxes are allow you and you're still making it. But come on, like, we've all seen the Tom Brady story, and we all know that how big of a pay cut he took every single year to do what him and his team could do. Like, when you come out like Dak Prescott did the other day and say it's not about the money, I right off the bat said bullshit, because no point in your career have you ever showed that it's not about the money. Like, I don't get that impression from Dak. Like, that he's out there. I'm sure everybody loves playing the game of football, but when it comes down to contracts, you want to be the number one guy. You want to get paid right. And part of me is already thinking that Dak Prescott maybe has mentally already checked out of the Dallas Cowboys. And why wouldn't you want to go test the free agent market? Like, because you saw what Kirk Cousins did. You saw Kirk Cousins on day one get signed $160 million and $100 million guaranteed. And that dude was coming back from an injury. You don't think a 100% healthy Dak Prescott at the end of the year could make a lot more than that on the open market?
He's super wise on the way they structured this deal. The way it skyrocketed all on the last year. I mean, it looked probably good for the Cowboys at the time because they're thinking we're going to get an extension done before that last year. But the way it was put together by Dak and his agent is that if we don't get an extension this last year, I'm cashing out on the Cowboys for one. They're paying me a shit ton to play without a contract on that last season. And then I'm cashing out in the summer following if they let me walk. So he kind of put them in a corner where the Cowboys had no choice but to pay Dak regardless.
There's so much that's up in the air with the Cowboys right now, and I think that's like what is going to make this season so interesting because they do have a tough schedule. Mike McCarthy is in a contract year, and your quarterback's in a contract year. The 3 most important things of any NFL franchise: ownership. I think that Jerry's a better owner than we give credit for. There's a lot of jokes made about Jerry, but I think he's a good owner. You need quarterback and you need a coach, and you want those things cemented. This is the foundation of your organization, and they're going in with 2 of them where it's like kind of shaky footing right now. And so it's if I was a Cowboys fan, I'd be uncomfortable, but I would still be extremely optimistic. Both of these guys need to perform to continue doing, what they love to do at the highest level and being compensated for it the way they want to be compensated. So and I think Mike McCarthy, we've made a lot of jokes on this show about him in the past. I think he's a good coach. I mean, if you win 12 games every year, you're a good coach. You might not be able to pull through in big games or whatever, but how many people
he's the really Dave good? Roberts of the NFL.
Shots fired. Dodgers fan right here.
Yeah. Holy smokes. But yeah, when you put your chips on the table, Tony, you start playing with fire, sometimes you might get burned. And that's what I worry about for the Cowboys. If the wheels start to fall off, how many wheels are going to fall off? Micah Parsons, very outspoken guy without a contract. CeeDee Lamb, very outspoken guy without a contract. We get to week 10, and this thing is completely crashing into the side of the road. Are those guys going to start thinking about wanting to leave with Dak?
Well, they've already thrown Dak under the bus before, so what's going to stop them again?
Yeah, are they going to start to say, you know what? If Dak's gone, Mike's gone, if we're going to start a rebuild here, maybe we aren't the guys to get rebuilded around. Maybe we want to go and join up with one of these other super teams. And I really do think that the bigger these contracts get, the more these players are making, the more power these players hold, the more and more and more we're going to get like the NBA as far as player movement. And we're going to start to see some players doing some crazy moves.
So I think that there's a little bit of delicacy that we don't really get into or discuss as fans or when you watch mainstream media of this sort of mentally checking out. I think the guys that are well compensated and they also have their mentals on their legacy. I don't think Micah Parsons is wasting football games in the NFL when he's talking about wanting to be one of the greatest players of all time. You don't get to check out. Even in a bad season, you'll still see the greatest players really going after it. I mean, the Raiders and Devontae Adams, Joe saw this firsthand. Devontae was still out there competing, still wants the football thrown his way, is still going 100%, playing through concussions, some people think, on a bad football team. Because those guys know when everything gets added up and the totality of their career is being spoke on from idiots like us on the internet, they want to be remembered going, oh, this guy, he was the dude. He was legit. And I think the problem, the checking out, is the guys that are like, hey, man, I don't know if I want to be sacrificing my body. I don't know how many more years of earning potential I have left. Those are the ones that aren't worried about their sort of football legacy that you get where it's they're half in, half out. And then you have those other guys that are like, I eat, live, and breathe this. As soon as that whistle blows, I'm running through every wall I can. See, that's why we still get really good product, even from the teams that are out by Halloween. Yeah. Joker, what's going on, brother? How you dig the new Harbaugh hat, the Harbaugh?
I see what you're saying, Tony. And for a lot of positions, a lot of players, I agree, but not for receivers. I think receivers have a pinky toe out the door at all times.
I think it depends on where you're at, who you are, where you are at in your career. And I just don't think that guys that think about legacy, think about Hall of Fame, I just don't think they check out like that. They're just not built that way.
You know who's not mentally checking out? And he's getting a lot of love this year because of the Dak Prescott contract situation? Trey Lance. That's all you hear. All I'm reading online is Cowboys can't wait to see Trey Lance in preseason because he's going to be so good. So I don't know. That's my last thing on the Dak Prescott Cowboys things. Because I don't know about you guys, but I get sick in the stomach when I talk about the Dallas Cowboys. It's why are we talking about a crappy team that can't do anything and just annoying fan base? Let's just move on away from because I just want to throw up every time I talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
I will say that we don't spend a ton of time talking about the Cowboys on this show. There's never we're leading the show. We led the show with Tua and over Dak in the contract conversation. We even went to Jordan Love before we went to Dak. The last person I want to talk about is Trevor Lawrence, and then we can just sort of wrap this up. I think that the Jaguars are in a spot where they have to pay Trevor Lawrence everything and anything that he wants to be paid because this team cannot go back to being irrelevant. There's just no way around it. And I do think that Trevor has shown enough to where it's he should be in that. When Trevor was healthy last year and that team was really cooking, they were on the right track. he suffers a couple of really bad injuries that we all sat here going, there's no way he plays. There's no way on a quick turnaround like this that this guy's out there. He's in a knee brace that's looked like it's fit for like an offensive lineman, like just the bulkiest, biggest, grossest thing. And he's out there and he's winning football games. So like Trevor, I don't think the Jaguars can afford to be not part of the conversation, and Lawrence keeps them in that conversation. Also, too, if Trevor was tradable or on the open market, there's like 5 teams that would call immediately and be like, hey, Gino, pack your bags. Hey, this, the next guy, pack your bags, get out, because we want this kid in our building. The Steelers, in a heartbeat, would be like, Justin, Russ, hit the road, Jack.
So can we finally stop? Like, Trevor Lawrence is the story that we need to like put out there. That look, just because you have a generational talent player coming through the rankings doesn't mean that as soon as they get to the NFL, that team is starting to win. Like, remember, everybody said Trevor Lawrence was born and raised to play football in the NFL, to win championships, and then he gets there with Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now we're looking at his first contract to get it, or his second contract, and we're like, should they pay him? Should they pay him $50 million? Should they put him up at the top? Like I don't know. They brought in Mac Jones this season, who was drafted 2 or 3 picks after him, and now you're looking that whole draft class. He's the only one from that draft class still with his original team right now, the only one, and he's the generational talent. And they're not. It's not like they're winning games. I mean, their one big game was, that playoff game against the Chargers where they came back in the second half. But that's about it.
I mean, he also had an amazing year that year. Maybe I think he finished 5th or 6th in the MVP voting that season. Like, he balled out in 2022, and then 2023 is where things started to look a little muckier because of injuries, which he played through, but also because the division rivals they're catching fire. And they have to try and keep up with a team that I think is going to be special again this year in the Texans. I think that they got to pay Trevor Lawrence as well. You talk about the truck and the trailer. You talk about the engine. He's the engine of that offense. They need to fix the O-line. They need to fix their secondary. They need to work on a bunch of stuff to improve the Jaguars around Trevor Lawrence before we're going to know if he can compete in the AFC with some of these younger quarterbacks that are catching fire at the same time. But what you're saying, Joe, is every single draft, only like 1 or 2 quarterbacks. I made a whole video about it, the success rate of quarterbacks in the top 10 picks. Only 1 or 2 quarterbacks come out of every single draft, and very rarely are any of them successful as a rookie in recent memory. CJ Stroud, I mean, even Justin Herbert didn't have a winning season as a rookie, and he broke all those records. Joe Burrow was crazy good as a rookie. Bengals went like 5-12 because he got injured halfway through the season. I mean, I can't think of very many quarterbacks that just stepped into the league and we're just balling immediately. And that's why I keep telling the Bears fans, let's damper our expectations a little bit. It would be absolutely insane and one of the best rookie seasons of all time if they dethrow the Lions for that division. If they come in second in that division, it's going to take an amazing season.
So we always do this thing where we see something and then we get super hyperbolic about like expectations for things, right? Like it happened in the draft class with Andrew Luck and RG3. They both came out and were like, I think they both went to the playoffs as rookies, right? Wasn't it like pick 1, pick 2? They both go to the playoffs the first year. RG3 wins rookie of the year. Andrew Luck really does, like, I think they won like 10 of their final, 11 games or something crazy like that. It's the expectation then goes up, and then all of a sudden teams don't meet it and you start to reset it. Well, then we have a year like we had last year with CJ Stroud, and everybody who has a microphone that has a giant platform just goes, which guy is going to be the CJ Stroud this year? And it's like, realistically, none of these guys will have a chance to even have that kind of success with their team. Like, I get that Caleb Williams is set up really good, but then we look around at the division, it's like, yeah, the Bears got better at a lot of spots. So did the Lions. So did the Packers. So did the Vikings. Like, you still have a super tough division with a pretty difficult schedule because of that division. So it's like, I'm sure Caleb has expectations of being MVP. I mean, the guy is mega talented and has like some really wild thoughts on life and everything. And I think that's kind of how you get to be that successful is because you start thinking about all that crazy stuff. Are we done talking about quarterbacks? 45 minutes into the show?
Been done talking about quarterbacks.
He's done talking about quarterbacks. Let's talk about something that's near and dear to Joe's heart, and that was the fact that Tom Brady was denied ownership for the Las Vegas Raiders, right? And I'm going to give my stance on this, and I'm going to get out of here real quick. Brady being denied ownership of the Raiders to me is perfect sense, because I don't want Tom Brady in a production meeting getting ideas, insights, plays, conversations, like things they plan to do on a week where maybe the Raiders have to play the Chargers in a couple of weeks or whatever it is. Like, I don't want any sort of anything, game plans, inside access from somebody who owns another team. Now, yes, I do think that Brady would be professional and keep that stuff separate for the most part. He'd have to, because the minute it got leaked out, he would lose his multi-million-dollar contract with Fox. He'd probably be stripped of his ownership, and it'd be a tough road. I just don't like the way it looks. I don't want somebody else who has an ownership stake of another team having any sort of access to my favorite team, because if something bad happens, the internet is going to create crazy conspiracies. Then guys like our friend Mike here are going to spread like wildfire on the internet. I just don't like it.
Tony, you think if Brady gets the chance to cheat, he's not going to cheat?
I mean, he admitted to
he's on stage admitting to cheating.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, especially with this team, who's also known for playing a little dirty in the past.
Look, do you really think it fucking changes anything just because you didn't say yes to him being a part-time owner? Do you really think it changes Mark Davis and going, oh, you know what, Tom? Okay, we tried. You're out of here. No, they already worked together with the Las Vegas Aces. They already they're just gonna be like, hey, Tom, we'll go at it again, but continue to do what you're doing. But we're still gonna work you in the organization. Like, it's not gonna change shit just because 32 or 31 other people didn't say yes. It's not changing anything with Tom Brady and Raiders and Mark Davis's relationship. Like, Mark Davis is gonna find a way to get him in there and this little job that he's doing. The only person that is affected by Tom Brady this season is Greg Olsen. That's the only person that should be bad, because that guy's losing like $8 million or $7 million to become the number 2 broadcaster for Fox or whatever Tom Brady's working for. But Tom Brady doesn't need your inside information. This guy is so good that he can put on any tape and already know what you're doing. Like, he's going to go in your building. Nobody wants him in the building because how good he is. And you don't think come on. You don't think Tony Romo and all these other guys have their people that they call up, Steve Smith, and be like, hey, that guy's really good. This is blah, 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 blah. Like, everybody has connections in the NFL, and they already do it.
But not an investment where they're financially invested in a team succeeding for their own success, Joe. I mean, Tony Romo has a huge connection to the Dallas Cowboys, and they have him on the call for as many Cowboys games as they can. Troy Aikman, same thing, but he's not a part owner of the team. He's on the team. Like, everyone in that ownership group gets a ring if the Raiders win the Super Bowl.
All right, look. So this year, the Raiders play the Chargers week 1. Who do they play week 2? The Ravens. You don't think the 2 brothers are sharing information?
That's completely different.
Yes.
It's not. I'm just saying, you have people that are connected everywhere else that are going to share information. Owner, not owner, your BFF is going to give you all the information.
This is some Raider splaining right here, Tony.
It is. To me, it's too big of a conflict of an interest, right? Like, and I could see why. Actually, you know what? I don't see why the Raiders really want Brady to be part of their organization so badly. But
I don't want him a part of the organization. It's Mark Davis. Mark Davis is, I think it's just his friend, that's somebody that he's became friends with, and that's what he wants. And I think that's the main reason. It's more Mark Davis. I mean, a lot of Raider fans will tell you they don't even want Tom Brady or any Patriot shit part of the organization anymore.
I mean, I get it from an emotional standpoint. From a business standpoint, it makes great sense. Like every team should want to be in business with Tom Brady because of the knowledge, because of the focus, because of the connections. You should all want to be in business. Like you should want Tom Brady stopping by training camp for a couple of days and working with Aiden O'Connell. Like I think that that's something that can really help him out. Like even you just talk to people who are like, oh, I spent a weekend with Peyton Manning, and what they can take away from that and understanding things and how to prepare, how to watch film. Like all of these guys have, it's not necessarily cheat codes, but it's like, here's a blueprint to a path to greater success. Maybe not the greatest success, but a higher percentage chance of succeeding. So like you want those guys around. This is my question to you. If Tom Brady goes out, does the commentating thing this year, because I've already been on record as saying that Tom Brady was never serious about taking this job, just needed a placeholder, needed some leveraging for whatever his next move was going to be. If he goes out and he's not great and he's getting cooked by the internet worse than he did on that roast, like, do you then just go, hey, Mark, I'm telling Fox, thanks, but no thanks. They can keep the next $90 million of this contract. Let's push this ownership thing through, and I'm ready to for that to be the next venture. Like, would you make that move, or do you think Brady's too tied to reputation where he'd be like, I'm going to keep grinding this thing out until I'm considered one of the best broadcasters on television?
No, I could see Tom Brady walking away from it. If it's not working out, I could see him going, because he doesn't need it. Like you said, it's not like something that he needs. And I'm sure he loves being around the game of football, but what if he finds out that it's not something that, like you said, it's not something that he loves? He doesn't like going to the production meetings. He doesn't like doing all this. I can see him being like, all right, screw this.
But he's going to crush it. He's going to crush it.
Yeah.
There's no way. He's going to do great. He's going to be phenomenal. He was great in that roast, Tony. And he was great.
It's not Jason we're talking about.
He's been great on every show that he's been on, hyping up the commentary thing. I don't know if you saw him on stage with Strahan. He was great on there. He's throwing jabs at the Cowboys and everything.
I have no doubt that he'll figure out his groove. Who's the partner that he's taken over Greg Olson?
Herb Street, right?
No, it's Kevin Burkhardt, right?
Oh, maybe. Yeah. I think those are the same person.
That guy is tremendous at his job. And so I think that's going to make that transition for Brady a little easier than it would have been had he not necessarily had somebody who was so great at calling NFL games. Because
Go ahead, Tony.
I was just going to say my favorite broadcaster on right now is Mark Sanchez. He does not get enough love. He's like the Fox broadcaster number 3. Every week, Mark Sanchez shows up with a couple of jokes ready to go. He doesn't force them in. He waits. It might be the third quarter, but an opportunity presents itself, and he fires off some really funny stuff. I think Mark Sanchez is great, is fantastic. But he's like broadcast. He's like Fox number 4 or 3 team or whatever. Like he never gets like the big games.
I liked Romo at first, but it's growing old on me. It's just it's a little too much. He's just constantly saying stuff that we don't care about all the time.
I think the internet's kind of gone the wrong way. You got to think about it like this. If you're and this is the part that becomes challenging. If you're Tony Romo and you're doing your 5th or 6th Patrick Mahomes game of the season, what are you really supposed to say? Oh, Jim, he's done it again, Jim. Like, there's nothing. You run out of adjectives. You don't have the vernacular to continue to sit in there in real time and explain it. And it's like, everybody's like, oh, he's on Patrick's jock. Oh, you mean the multiple-time MVP, 3-time Super Bowl champion or whatever he is at this point? Like, yeah, because he's really good. Is he supposed to just go and hate on Patrick Mahomes? So I'm out on the internet hating and fading Tony Romo. I still think it's a really entertaining listen.
Here's the guy. Here's the guy, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, Collinsworth's been rocking with his shtick for decades.
I will take
Romo.
I will take anybody and any broadcast partnership over Al Michaels and Tony Dungy all day, every day.
Just strays towards the legend out of nowhere for no reason.
No, like when they called that game, that was the worst shit I've ever heard.
I think what made it worse was that I was watching the team that I was like rooting for and dying for them to win this game, and it's like slowly slipping away. And then I'm part of some stupid chat that was like, we're going to the Super Bowl in the first half. And then by the second half, it was like, they always do this. I knew it was going to happen. It's like, let me scroll up to your fucking comment from 45 minutes ago where you were just talking about how the team was going to go in and run through Patrick Mahomes the next week. And then you were like 45 minutes later, well, I knew this was going to happen. Shut your mouth. So that was a terrible, terrible tandem like that. It just was painful to watch. We make too much of this. What do we really expect from these calls, from these moments? Like, we have too much insight, and the average fan knows way more than they used to know. And now everybody thinks that they're an expert about what it is. But we have to understand that the majority of people watching the games might not be as obsessed with football, and they have to make sure that this is relatable to a bigger crowd. They can't be sitting there and like breaking down the things that we as like fans that consider ourselves like super knowledgeable want to know about, because that would go way over the head of the majority of the crowd. So it does have to have some sort of baseline vanilla. But to me, it's like, I just want enthusiasm. If you're enthusiastic, that's what I want in a big play, because I feel the same way.
Well, I'm with you in a way, Tony, because I show my videos to my wife, and the ones that she likes always do the best. I've realized like she is the broader audience that I'm trying to get to here. I'm not necessarily trying to get this in front of Joe Morley, because Joe Morley's going to swipe on me regardless, just because I'm a Chargers fan. But I see what you're saying. So maybe they should just get us in the booth. Suggestion? Put us in the booth. Let's see who tunes in.
Well, I mean, to go back to where Tony has always said that the NFL needs to give rights to people like, I don't know, maybe not like us, but people that do what we do on the internet and allow us to call it. Like, that's what I don't know if it's Tony, or I always think it's Tony that says it, because Tony's the smart one of the group. But damn. I'm just saying, like, yeah, it goes back. See, it was just a big old circle. All our conversation is a big circle.
Yep.
You could set it up to where, you have these people on the approved list, and you could actually like shift through, just like they do with Amazon Prime, where you could shift through the different broadcast teams and the different versions and viewing experience that you want to see. And hey, maybe you should team up with TikTok, save them from getting banned, save my career, and everyone will be happy. We could do these streams on TikTok directly.
I think Go ahead, Joe.
I'm just saying, like, if you're going, like, you have a list of 10 people that are calling the Charger game, well, like, I think that's a little bit too much, but one of them better not be, like, one of them better be all Charger fans. Like, I want to see all Charger fans, and then I want to see, like, a team, like a Raider fan calling a Charger game, like, how pissed, like, okay, they better be all different, not all the same shit, where I'm going through and going, okay, another Charger fan calling the game? No, I don't want to.
But everybody's going to gravitate towards what they want, right? Like, I have tend to sort of, if I'm not super invested in the game, I will watch the Manning cast, because I think that is entertaining, right? But there's not always alternate broadcasts that are super great. I tried to watch the Kevin Hart one for the NBA the other night, and it just wasn't good. It didn't have a rhythm. It was like trying to force in jokes on delayed time. It wasn't really clicking the whole time. But if I can get Peyton and Eli to get a little bit more in depth, because they have time to do that. They don't have to cover every single play. Sometimes they're talking about 6th grade photos of, like, hey, remember this? Your mom sent us this photo, you with Cheeto dust on your fingers and whatever. That's when we knew you were going to be an offensive lineman. And then Eli will go, that was a 17-yard gain up the right-hand side. So anyways, was it true you couldn't find blue jeans in your size? Like that, it's fun. If I'm not super invested in the game, I don't necessarily need that. But they're never going to sit there and break down gap assignments. Like, they're not going to get in there, because we sit there and we go, show that play again. What happened? Where was backside coverage or whatever? Like, and again, we think we know more than we do. We don't. Me and Mike love to get on and watch the All 22 and be like, what was the play call? What were they thinking? Why is this happening? Who leaves Travis Kelce so wide open? I hope that never happens in this new regime, ever. Special tip to Jesse Minter. Cover Travis Kelce. It's a very successful game plan.
Goal
right,
number one. Let's cover Travis Kelce. Goal number one. Before we move on, Joe, and
Wait, who's Travis Kelce?
we've gone completely off the Travis Kelce.
Is that Taylor Swift's boyfriend?
Taylor's man. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in a real conflict right now because like
you can't tell. I don't know Travis Kelce, but I know Taylor Swift. So if you just say that the guy that dated Taylor Swift's dating, then I'll be like, oh, okay, cool, I got it.
Kelsey's in a real hard spot right now between the Swifty lefties and the Kansas City righties. Like this is a brutal spot for Kelsey to be sitting in. But before we move on to the next topic, Joe, I want to just say, as a Chargers fan, I'm willing to make an offer. I'm willing to compromise on this Tom Brady ownership thing. We will allow, and everyone in the entire league will allow Tom Brady to buy a piece of the Raiders and own a piece of the Raiders just like he did in 2001. If we ban the Raiders from primetime football, so they can never be shown on primetime football ever again, so you don't have to worry about that conflict of interest. Honestly, we could just take them off TV. Just put them in the 10 a.m. Put them in the 10 a.m. and never see them again. Huh?
I mean, they didn't do that this year. They didn't take the Raiders off primetime already there this year.
I wonder why they did that.
How many games did they get?
They got the Black Friday game.
Yeah.
Which is not really prime time because it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And then they have a Monday night football game against the Atlanta Falcons late in the season that will probably get flexed out.
Yes.
The same as the Chargers. The Chargers only have 2, right?
But the Chargers deserve not to be on prime time. They were given like 6 primetime games last year with Brandon Staley as their head coach.
And it was a fun time, wasn't it, Joe? Didn't you enjoy all 6 of those games?
I enjoyed the last one.
Well, they had, last year, Peacock was really banking on Josh Allen, Justin Herbert in that matchup. And by the time they got there, they were like, Khalil Mack chasing the all-time sack record versus Josh Allen. Boy, this is a tough one to sell. Ladies and gentlemen.
The NFL needs to do something about the primetime games because I don't know, like you said, we're like, maybe we know more than what we think, or as a football fanatic, or I consider myself one, I hate seeing the same damn teams every week. Like it's the one, like the 3 of us could sit there, we'll watch Red Zone, we'll watch whatever game we want to watch anyways on Sunday, right? But when it comes down to like the one individual game, this is the time that we get to watch a team that we normally don't get to watch because we're either watching the Chargers or we're watching the Raiders. We get to watch the same thing. I don't want to watch the Chiefs 20 times a year on Sunday Night Football or whatever. I want to watch different teams and get the other perspective. So I think I wish the NFL would make it where every team has a primetime game no matter what, and every team is there. Because like this year, who are they pushing again this year, Tony? Aaron motherfucking Rodgers. He has, 6 primetime games? And if he goes down, then we got to see the Jets back up 6 damn times on primetime games that nobody wants to watch. Like, so everybody's going to complain that we might have a Carolina Panthers versus some, I don't know, what's another crappy team out there? Arizona Cardinals primetime game. But I would take that over an Aaron Rodgers-less Jets team getting their ass kicked. You know what I mean? Just give us different teams every year. I'm tired of I talked about it last week. I'm tired of the Giants Cowboys games. Like you're pushing it on us way too much. Like that, both of those games don't need to be primetime games every single year.
I'd rather see than seeing a bunch of different teams because I watch every game anyways. And that's what I was going to say in the other comment too. Like I realized when I was thinking about this, like I watch most of my football now without volume because I have a 8-screen split going on with all the different games on there. But yeah, for the primetime games, I'm less so about seeing every team. Like I don't need to see the Panthers when they suck on primetime. More so, I want to see the games with the highest stakes. I want to see all the divisional games on primetime. I want to see all the hottest rivalries on primetime. I want to see the most entertaining football on primetime over seeing, the Panthers because we forced a mandate where the Panthers have to have a primetime game.
So here's my thing. If you have injuries late in the season, that's why they've started offering the flex. I think that they could actually do a better job when you know that Aaron Rodgers is done for in week whatever it was. They needed to start flexing out of those games early in the season. The league needed to say, hey, we're pivoting right now, and we are getting out of as many of these games as we possibly can without burdening too many people in the schedules. But I think when you're making the schedule, and I overall believe they do a pretty good job for as many. If you think about how many primetime slots they have to have, what is it? 15 Thursday night games, 15 or 16 Sunday night games, all the holiday games, all the Monday night football games. Now they're moving games to Friday. I think they do a pretty good job. If you're an organization that's invested in a franchise quarterback, then yes, the league should be investing in you and continuing to put those guys in primetime spots to promote them. That is just a baseline rule for marketing. Like, we don't need to be having certain teams that aren't investing in the marquee position of what it is, because it's already tough enough for people to really recognize these athletes as outside of the game of football, because they're constantly wearing masks. Like, they're not getting as much face time as the other guys in other sports. So like, let's put those quarterbacks on. And if you have somebody that's polarizing, like an Aaron Rodgers, you're going to put him in primetime. We already knew before the schedule came out that the Jets were going to have minimum 4. They ended up with 6. They potentially could have more if they're in the hunt at the end of the year, the way the schedule shakes out for them. I could easily see them getting bumped up into a 7th primetime game. And I think they have already a 7th standalone game because they play in London this year, I believe. So they'll have another game at 6:30 in the morning, even though it's not primetime. It's still going to be the only game on. And I'll probably be up at 6:30, walk the dog, make the coffee, and root for whoever the Jets are playing that week.
I'm already bored with the Jets talk right now. I'm
already
bored. I haven't even watched one. I haven't even watched one Jets game.
Jets are winning 12 games.
Jets are winning 12. Aaron Rodgers. It's Aaron Rodgers.
You're a hater.
And Baltimore Ravens. It's those two teams I don't want to talk about. And then I get sick when I talk about Dallas Cowboys, and I really get sick when I get talk about 49ers.
This list is getting long. You had the Chiefs, you had the Chargers, you had the Broncos. Like, you're about halfway through the league already of teams you hate, Joe, and don't want to see on primetime.
Week 1 Monday night game is the New York Jets and San Francisco 49ers. I'll be throwing up the whole damn time.
Who do you root for in that game, Joe?
I don't know. Like Leonard Floyd? I don't know.
Here's the thing. I think that I can already predict this. Next year, this is as much as we talked during the draft about Debo, Ayuk, possible trades or whatever, it's been pretty quiet offseason for the 49ers. Next offseason is going to be nonstop talk about the San Francisco 49ers show. Buckle up for that, because if both of those wide receivers are in a position where they haven't figured out contracts and Brock Purdy is going to be contract eligible next year, that is going to be massive, conversations for the 49ers, especially if Brock Purdy goes back to another NFC championship game. And a lot of it is due to the public perception, is due to a healthy CMC. Debo's there. Ayuk's there. Kittle has another strong year. But a lot of these guys are aging. A lot of these guys have wear and tear on them. And you have to start making really difficult decisions. And you may have to be signing up for Brock Purdy at $55 million a year. Like, that's going to be fun conversation. But that's a year away.
If the Niners don't, now we're going to another conversation we don't really go to. But if the Niners don't win the Super Bowl next year, oh yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. There's going to be a lot of talk, even about their own head coach, Tony.
No,
that's a whole nother topic that we can do. Oh, anyways, you know what? Talking about the 49ers, I saw Brandon Staley wearing Niner gear the other day. It kind of looked weird, but he looked a lot happier. I'm at it finally in a winning organization. I saw what Super Bowl trophies look like when I walked down the hall. I think he said that. I think that was one of his quotes when he walked. He said, "Just walking in and seeing these things that they call Lombardi trophies. It's kind of cool."
Well, it's a lot easier to be a water boy than the head coach, Joe. So he's probably got a lot less on his shoulders too, and stress.
I personally root for Brandon Staley. He can go have all the success that he wants. I'm also very glad that Jim Harbaugh is the coach of the Chargers this year. Let's end this with a fun conversation. New NFL jerseys were released a couple months ago, so we're a little late to this topic, but the new Giants one just came out. And these two sent it to me and then continued in the next, before I could even comment, to hate on and make fun of these new Giants throwbacks. I'm here to say and tell the internet, I don't care if I get filleted for this or not. I like them. I like the throwback to the original, sort of rugby style, that pant that looks like, I think it was supposed to mask grass stains, but somehow grass stains look more pronounced on the beige pants than they do on white pants. Like, I think that these uniforms are going to be fun. Now, would I want to see them every week? No, I don't. But I like the old school Packer. I think it was like, I'm bad with colors, but I think they were like beige and purple or something. I like the Steelers throwback that is kind of weird.
A bumblebee.
I like these
They're all
uniforms.
ugly.
The bumblebee. I like them for a game or two. Like, I think it's a good thing. I also learned this because I said in there that I was upset that they ripped off the Michigan helmet. This helmet that the Giants are going to be wearing with that uniform actually came out a year before the Wolverines helmet. So technically, while the Wolverines made it famous, they ripped off this Giants helmet whenever it was made in like 1918 or whatever. And that's how old these uniforms are. I think once we see a couple of the like really good players in this uniform, you know, like you see Brian Burns is going to look good in this uniform. I just believe that. Now the offensive linemen are not going to love this. The sort of like horizontal stripe across there. Big guys know horizontal stripes are not our friend. It's not. It just makes us look wider and wider and wider. It's just not our friend. You guys go ahead, tear on them. Get to the Broncos, Lions, whatever you want to say here.
Well, I'm just saying. We'll start with the Giants one because they look like they work for State Farm, right? That's what they look like. They got khakis and a red shirt on. But it's not the worst ones. It's not like it's pretty bad. Detroit Lions, you can't really hate on, Tony. Like they went to a black, like right. It's funny. Everybody always says like I made a video the other day that I posted it where I said the Raiders have the best uniforms in the NFL, and people are like bullshit. Well, if it's bullshit, then why is every team making a black alternative jersey? Come on, it's like stop with that. The Raiders have the best. But one of the other ones, Tony, that are ugliest. Oh my god! And this is just maybe it's the Walmart because I love to talk shit about Walmart, right, Tony? The Denver Broncos. Did you see the blue jersey that they have now? It's like I don't know. It's I don't know what color blue it is, but and then they have they put a lightning bolt on their shoulder. They put a lightning bolt on the shoulder. The Broncos. Like you don't know what you're like. I don't know. I like the old school Bronco with the blue helmet, the orange jersey, the blue around the number. I like that jersey. I'm okay with that one. But the new ones, I don't know. So I think Denver had it horrible, and then I mean the Giants aren't going to this. This is just one or two games, but Denver's going to these these are legit. They're uniforms now, right?
I hope not.
The Broncos kind of just ruined my entire argument in this conversation. Like I've always said, these old uniforms are cool, guys. I love the throwbacks. Let's keep the history rich and tradition flowing. But why are we always going back in time and thinking that they had better fashion back then? They did not have better looking uniforms back then. Almost none of the teams had better uniforms in the 50s, in the 40s, and this Giants uniform is from the 30s and 20s. Why don't we make some new stuff and the Broncos come out and do this and just completely shit on my entire argument? Because all of the new uniforms that come out, the Chargers new uniforms, you guys talk about the Broncos new uniforms. I still don't like those either, but I think I'm a little bit biased on that. The Lions new uniforms, a lot of these teams be coming up with new uniforms. Even the Commanders new uniforms came out nice. Almost every single new age design comes out looking absolutely fire. When we go to the old school, the Bumblebees, Tony, they do not look good. The Steelers Bumblebees with all the stripes, no, it doesn't work. Any of the Browns old school uniforms, just throw them all in the fire. We're done with the Browns old school uniforms. We need to stop with it. But the Broncos kind of just threw it all out the window. But the best part is the lightning bolt. That was funny. The lightning bolt on the side, the same shape as the Chargers logo, just inverted. It's the same exact shape.
I'm going to agree with Joe here. The John Elway version of the Broncos uniform and helmet and everything, it's fantastic. They should have went back to that. And Mike, fashion. I know fashion's not your thing, but I'm connected to somebody who's very deep into fashion. Old is new, always. The trends recycle. There's only so many things you can do. So every time the new generation thinks that they've invented something or done something, they haven't. None of it's really that new.
Well, Tony, let's get your fashion expert on the show, and I want to ask him about these Giants uniforms. All right, I want to see his opinion. Break down the Giants uniforms. Let's talk about how these are good, and let's talk about how these work. Let's bring up those purple Packers uniforms. Them things are nasty.
I'm not saying that they need to wear them for the full season, but as like just sort of a, like the first tweet that's going to come out when they have those and Daniel Jones throws a pick 6, they're going to go, the uniforms match the play of the Giants tonight. That'll be a viral tweet by somebody who's famous on X. That'll be on there, and you guys will share it with me. And Daniel Jones looking confused on the sideline in this rugby jersey. It's like, yeah, I get it. It also kind of reminds me, like, I grew up a hockey fan. It has that sort of old school, like, hockey sweater feel, like an old school, like Montreal Canadiens or something like that. And that's, I like it. Not every week, but it's fine. The Lions ones, what I love is that they earned them. Dan Campbell said, we can bring these jerseys back and put them in the rotation, or we can wear these jerseys, we put them in the rotation if we win the division. They went out, won the division. They earned the jerseys, and they're great. I think that Joe is right. Black is great. Black is slimming. I made the comment about horizontal stripes. Big guys, big people. Black is good. Black's slimming. So black's a good color.
Also, the Raiders did not invent black. All right, there's a bunch of teams that have had black before, after, and while the Raiders wore black. Okay, I just want to.
There's a great retort. I need you to say it.
Don't give
Tony,
me
what about the Eagles' old uniforms, the yellow and the powder blue?
I'm trying to think of off the top of my
Remember
head.
It was like
I remember
the shoulders were blue, and this was yellow, and then I think the numbers were blue.
Very much Minneapolis Lakers color scheme.
Yes, I remember now. Again, if they put them on for a game, I'd be fine. But last year, the Eagles brought back another one of my favorite uniforms was the Kelly Green, is the throwback to sort of the Randall Cunningham, Reggie White era, I believe, of the Eagles. That Eagles uniform is fantastic. Like, it's a great.
I like the Kelly Greens. I give the Kelly Greens. There's a few exceptions. Like if the Giants would have went with their like 1990s uniforms, those are nice. Those look nice.
Again,
these look like these aren't throwbacks. These aren't throwbacks, Tony. This isn't like the old new take that you gave. This is throwback to when they had limited printing capabilities, limited ability to make uniforms.
Yeah,
these how far back we're going with these.
This is a throwback to like the Industrial Revolution, and half the country was dedicated to war, but they're like, our football team needs new uniforms, and they just threw something together.
New rule. Anything that came out before typewriters canceled. Anything before typewriters is canceled.
I like the creamsicle jerseys. Oh, damn. That just hit me hard. I like the creamsicle jerseys of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are good ones, and people like hate on those ones. I think those are good ones. I like, what was the other one I was going to say? There was one other one. Can't think of it right now, but there's.
No, I think Joe, I agree with you. I think the creamsicle jerseys are fantastic. But if you go back to that, like 90s, again, this is my era, but like the Lions uniforms, I thought were really cool. I like the Lions logo from back in the day. Like, I think there's a lot of jerseys when we go back in there, they were kind of like simple looking, but they were great.
Yeah, this is another one OJ just brought up, the Houston Oiler one. I like that look. And I think maybe it's the blue. Now I remember the other team. The Miami Dolphins teal jerseys. I don't like the orange jerseys. I like the blue, old Dan Marino looking jerseys. I like those ones.
Again, you guys are all referencing 80s, 90s, which is cool. I'm cool with the 80s and 90s. I realized as I was watching all the Super Bowls back in the 80s and 90s, especially, is when they actually started to try making football look good. So I think anytime before 1979, let's just keep those uniforms there. 1979 and older, those uniforms stay there, and we can do throwback 80s and 90s. Sorry, guys. That's a long time ago at this point. We're talking about 50 years now. So that's the limit. That's what we're calling it. We're not bringing any 1930s uniforms back after this Giants one. It's done.
That's almost you're 50 going back 50 years. You're talking my neighborhood here. I will say this. I think what makes the jerseys look even better now, and especially when you put the old school mixed with the new school, where you get the tightness around the shoulder pads, right? Like, because when you watch the old football, like one of the things that isn't that appealing visually is like how big the arms had to be. Like you'd see the quarterbacks throwing, and it was like a wing was flapping on their arm because the armhole was so big. Now they're like, they have them where they actually have to pull the jersey over the shoulder pads because they're so tight, and then have to have somebody, like we've seen that video of Joey Bosa getting yanked in pregame where it's like two people that are like pulling on him, and then he gets in and he's like saran wrapped the side of it. So I think that the way that they can wrap the jersey makes it even better, makes it look a little bit more aerodynamic. Like Russell Wilson in that Broncos uniform last year, I don't think he ever looked better. Like that was a fantastic look for him. He's going to look great in the Steelers uniform. Some people think on the sidelines, but that's a topic for next week.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get over it. That was one of my favorite moments in MJT history. It just happened. I'm still like having a hard time keeping it together with that light just smacking Joe in the head.
Well, I'm sure you're going to find a way to use that on social media this week.
And it was like right as they started putting clearly biased things in the chat. Yeah, OJ Raider claims that the Raiders are the best unis in all of sports.
I've been saying it. You know who never has to change your uniform? The Raiders. The Raiders never have to change your uniform. Like some people would claim like they would love to see an all black Raider uniform, black pants, black shirt, black helmet. But why change something that's already gray?
There's nowhere else they can go with it other than white, black, and gray. Like there's not very much mix and matching that can be done.
I've seen silver Raider jerseys, and I fucking think they're ugly as fuck. Like I'm looking at them, I go, oh my god! Like somebody actually bought those. Like those are horrible.
I do think at a certain point that the Raiders will experiment and they will introduce gold, and it'll look a little reminiscent to the Saints jerseys. Like at some point, just with Vegas, there's going to be like a dull yellowish gold introduced.
Well, the original Raider colors were more like the Saints and the Steelers because Al Davis was a little bit colorblind until he realized that somebody actually told him like, "Hey, dude, you kind of look like." No, it's a true story. But and then they really told him like, "Hey, you're looking more like the Steelers," and he was like, "I hate the Steelers. I'm changing these colors," and they went to their what they are now.
Yeah. So
have you ever not seen the Raiders like original, like old anything, Mike? No.
No, I try to stay away from all that stuff. But I could.
I'm on board with this.
I could say that the Raiders should just add an alternate uniform. It's just the Chargers practice squad jerseys. That's basically like half the roster right there. Jalen Guyton and Jerry Tillery and
wait till they make it.
Jerry Tillery's not a Raider. As soon as Tom Telesco took over, that was his first thing. Like, bye, Tillery. Get the fuck out.
Not making this again.
He was like, I've already cut you once, and I'll do it again. Get out of here.
Imagine his reaction. Like I think he's either from Hawaii or spends a lot of time in Hawaii. That was a big topic of conversation for Chargers fans. We're like, why isn't Tillery here? He's in Hawaii. So like wherever he was watching from, relaxing, maybe just putting an off-season workout and was like, oh, what a great day. Good thing. Let me check Twitter. Tom Telesco just got hired by the Raiders GM. Like the first call would be to my agent being like, let's see who wants my services. Where could I go? I think he ended up in Minnesota, right? Is that where he's at? I think he's a Viking right now.
I didn't pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I have no clue, but can't wait to see the Raiders practice in Costa Mesa. I'm planning pranks as we speak. I don't know what I'm going to do to him, but I'm going to do something.
Oh, yeah, he is a Viking.
Yeah, you got some gold and video from this. Let's wrap this thing up. Want to appreciate everybody for hanging out with us on a Friday. Hope that everybody has a great weekend. Remember, go find an opportunity to put something positive out there into the internet. You know, a player, a team, whatever. Just say something nice in a tweet, in an Instagram message. Doesn't have to be about your favorite team. Could be anything. Anything you guys want to say before we get out of here?
You can put out something positive, or you can clip that light falling on Joe's face.
You just ruined it. You just
That would
ruined it. I'm
be-
trying to get people to put positive things onto the internet.
That would be awesome, guys. If you guys could clip that up, post it up, send it to me. I'll repost it.
I just want to say that no matter how much hate Tony and Mike gets, they are my friends. I don't care what everybody says. I get DMs all the time that say that people just want to sock Mike in the face, and I tell them, no, that's my job. I'll take care of that.
I again try to say nice things, and Joe's threatening physical violence, and Mike is threatening like
I will do it. I'm being positive. Like, hey, you don't have to do it. I got this.
I don't got to threaten nobody, Tony. I got hitters. That light, he's working for me. He's working for me.
That's in the background. I'm pretty sure that was his wife just being like, "Get off the damn internet," and just threw a light in his face. Again, everybody have a great weekend. I'm gonna hit this end stream next Friday, 11:15. We'll be back talking football. Appreciate your time, everybody.
This Friday.